Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. I'll just switch my light on so you can see my face even better. Welcome back to another team news stream for Game Week 23. Lots to go through, and as always, Neale is going to guide us through it. How are you feeling today?
All right, yeah. I feel better than I look. I'm just seeing myself on camera, which is thanks to sleep deprivation. You had Gianni on your last video with his immaculate hair, and there's me come on with
Yeah,
my...
Gianni's annoying. We might have to stop him coming on, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have to go on a video with him every week. So, oh God, here we go again. Looking good. I'm just sat here looking like a mess. But yeah, anyway, we'll still have good team news, even if you can always switch off the video and just listen to us anyway. So we're going to go through all the press conferences as normal, the latest news, injuries, lineup news that we have. Let's start with Chelsea. So not necessarily a big FPL player himself, Thiago Silva, in terms of being in our teams, but would be a big miss to Chelsea in that defence. He's pretty much played whenever he's been available and fit for this season so far. He did come off. I saw it was like a bit of a stretch trying to clear the ball. He's probably going to miss Game Week 23, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, sounds like it. So this was a quote his manager gave last night. Now, this was one of just a handful of press conferences that were held immediately after the Game Week 22 games, and we haven't had a new one since. But he said it was going to be a very tall order for him to be fit for this. It looks like he's out. They've also had doubts over Zuma and Havertz for that game, and they both missed out as well. So if Zuma's not back there and he sticks with this wing-back system, then as we saw against Spurs, it'll be, you'd think, Christensen coming in, unless he redeploys one of his multitude of fullbacks centrally, which I doubt. Azpilicueta is the only one who's really done that in the past, and he's already obviously in that back three. But yeah, it sounds like he's out, or at least very, very doubtful for that game, which would only really solidify Rudiger's place in that back line. He's someone I had my eye on. If I didn't have fires to fight elsewhere, if there wasn't this double game week 24, 25, I would have probably moved for Rudiger by now. But as it is, I'm just going to have to watch him rack up these clean sheet points every week. But yeah.
3 in a row now for Chelsea, obviously. Yeah, I was the same. Rudiger was in my thoughts, and now I probably won't own him for weeks and weeks because of double game week fever, which we will come on to in a minute in terms of some of the teams. I guess I guess for lineup news, it was kind of handy that Alonso started twice in a row now. So Ben Chilwell's got to be a genuine doubt week to week. Obviously, it could still change. There's no reason Chilwell wouldn't start the next one, but definitely a big rotation risk now, so something to keep an eye on. I think in attack, really, we still haven't really got a clue exactly what he's going to do every week, have we? Because it has changed quite a lot. So yeah, Chelsea's still a bit of probably a no-go for most people, I would say. Let's move on to one of the double game week teams, although not till game week 25, which is Leeds. So obviously last week there was a bit of a doubt around Bamford and Rafinha, who both played, came through the game okay as far as I'm aware. But Rodrigo looks like he's going to be out for quite a while. I think that's correct, is it?
Yeah, Bielsa said him and Paveda are going to be out for a matter of weeks rather than days. So it might rule him out of double game week 25. I'm trying to think when that actually is. I think that's around about a fortnight's time. Obviously, because the game weeks have been sandwiched together at the moment. But he's definitely going to be out for the Crystal Palace game anyway. I don't think they've got any fresh doubts because, as we saw in midweek, Bamford and Rafinha both shrugged off their respective problems and they featured in that game. So I think otherwise it's as you were with the centre half still injured as well. Robin Koch and Llorente still sidelined on top of Rodrigo, who's the main name I think from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, Rafinha didn't just feature, he absolutely ran himself into the ground.
Yeah,
I don't know how he was still going at the end of that game. It was crazy. But yeah, you're right. It's exactly a fortnight today. The game week 25 kicks off 19th of February, and it is Leeds versus Wolves, the first game of that game week. So we'll have to keep an eye on Rodrigo if people are still owning him, but hopefully Bamford and Rafinha will be fine. And we know they don't rotate that often, so in terms of a double game week, it's almost perfect, Leeds players. Let's go on to Liverpool. So again, we had all that it is what it is last week, or is what it was with Klopp, and it ended up being exactly that. All those players missed out, and Alisson missed out. Alisson missed out, didn't he, in the last game? Am I right? Have I got that right? Yeah. I'm getting lost with the game weeks. Yeah. So this week, though, it looks a bit more promising. Potentially, we could see some of these players back.
Yeah, Alisson certainly. It was only illness that forced him out in midweek. and he's trained today, at least an individual session. And obviously with illness and with being a goalkeeper as well, match fitness isn't really a problem. So I would expect him to come back in for this big game against Man City. Slight doubts, I would say, more about the other two. So Mane and Fabinho, both of whom Klopp said he would expect to train, or at least train partly today. Now, I would think he would try and rush back both of them if he could, because given the magnitude of the fixture, this is almost their last chance at pegging City back. I know there's a long way to go, but City win on top of the game in hand they've got, then they're sort of over the hill and far away, really, a bit like Liverpool were last season. So you'd be astonished if Phillips started again as centre-half, given his limited mobility. Whether it's Fabinho who comes in, whether it's one of the new guys, Klopp said both of them were trained. He said ideally they would like to give them 2 or 3 weeks of getting to know the system and what's expected of them, but obviously he needs must at the moment. So there's a chance that one of the two new centre-halves comes in as well, which would allow not only Phillips to drop out, but Henderson to move back into the centre of midfield, which is where he's been missed. So yeah, we'll see. Mane back, as I said, back in on the training ground, at least doing part of a training session, and at least they've got another day as well. They've got Saturday to train before they take on City on Sunday. So I would expect them to be in around the squad at the very least.
Yeah, I listened to that, but he said they got a session today and a session tomorrow. So fingers crossed. I think I agree. I think if there's any way they can get them on the pitch, then they will. If they lose that game, they're 10 points behind with a game, and City will have a game in hand. So at that point, it looks very, very difficult given, obviously we're past halfway mark. But we'll have to wait and see. I think, Mane definitely in particular, and Fabinho, if they can get them back, then sure. Let's stick with that game and just go straight to Man City. So I think for Man City, it is what it was, right? I don't think there's any new concerns there.
Yeah, and Guardiola missed a chance to say that because his catchphrase. It's just, Ake, De Bruyne and Aguero, the three were out, as was the case in Gameweek 22.
Did he give any indication about timeframes? I guess the one that we're really waiting for is De Bruyne out of those three, but I don't think he's given a timeframe since the original one, has he?
He didn't. City sort of did. There wasn't an exact timeframe. When he omitted to mention De Bruyne in Gameweek 22, he said the only absentees are Ake and Aguero, which got our hopes up. City swiftly put out an update saying De Bruyne is going to be out for a few weeks more. So, again, that's probably going to rule him out of Gameweek 24, double Gameweek 24, you'd think, if it's a few weeks, at least one of the fixtures. But he could be back for the bigger double game weeks we've got later in the season. I mean, City's going to have at least 2, 3 possibly. 3 he'll be. So he's not back yet. So these tougher games are the ones where you're probably more confident of calling the team sheet, because you're going to put your best 11 out. I know that is something it's hard to say what it is in City's case, but you're going to see Rodri in there, you're going to see Gundogan in there. Stones and Diaz will be the centre half. What
about Cancelo? Do you reckon? Because he came off did he come off early in the last game? I can't remember.
He did.
Yeah, I'm getting lost in all the blooming games that are going on so recently. But yeah, I assume we're thinking he starts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now that there was no injury mentioned or anything of that sort, and he was the only one who was substituted, I think, in midweek. He was the only change that Guardiola made. It was like on the hour mark, just over the clean sheet deadline. He's become so crucial to the way City play at the moment. The way he's able to sort of, segue between defence and midfield. Walker doesn't really do that. Zinchenko's limited in that regard as well. And obviously Mendy's just out in the cold altogether. And we did see Laporte at left back in midweek against Burnley. I wonder if that was just more to do with height and Burnley's aerial threat. But I've got Cancelo. I'm playing him regardless of the magnitude of the fixture. And if I'm benching any of me City defenders, it'll be Diaz. If I'm not going for the double up, because I think Cancelo obviously offers you that something else going the other way as well. And Guardiola did actually mention him, I think, in this press conference today. He was talking about his virtues, and I would think most people would consider him part of his first choice 11 now.
Yeah, I assume that probably Walker will start on the right and he'll be on the left. I remember that game against I think it was Villa recently, where Cancelo down the left until I think Walker went off injured, so he moved over before the end of the game. But it was Cancelo and Foden down the left, and they absolutely ripped Matty Cash to bits. Really, they were constantly in and around the box, and I wonder if they'll go for something similar against Trent, because
Yeah.
Salah will come back, but he's not necessarily always there trying to help out. So I wonder if we'll see the same. That could be quite promising if they go on the attack, but whether or not they will, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, fingers crossed Cancelo starts, because I'm doing the same, playing him and benching Stones probably. Let's go to another Manchester side, Man United. Obviously, massive win last game week under bit of a weird, obviously, circumstances. But I didn't realise. I thought Cavani had just gone off because, just because they could rest him. But it sounded like he had a knock. Is that right?
Yeah, he took a knock to his ankle apparently, but he's fine now. Solskjaer said he should be available. I think he even said definitely after the end of that sentence. So expecting him to be fit. The only doubt they've got is Eric Bailly, who probably wouldn't start anyway. Lindelof and Maguire's the partnership of choice again. And Bailly's been in and out of the squad lately anyway with various things. And I think that's it. I think it's just Bailly and obviously Phil Jones, a long-term one. So, yeah, everyone okay.
Good stuff. We'll talk about Burnley, who I don't know, up until yesterday probably wouldn't really be too worried about, but all of a sudden we're looking at their players now, because they've got a pretty good game week in 24, especially like Nick Pope and I guess the defenders. Charlie Taylor is an interesting one in particular, because obviously he's an option if he plays, but if he doesn't, then people might be looking at Peters as well. What's the latest on kind of him and obviously the striker situation as well?
Yeah, Dice said there was possibilities that some of his injured troop could return for this one. Didn't really elaborate much. He did mention Charlie Taylor later on in the press conference about his length of absence, but he was talking about how it was a risk to rush people straight back in, especially with the games coming thick and fast at the moment. And traditionally, as we keep saying every week, he's erred on the side of caution with the 50-50 calls. I think I'm trying to look for a word. Oh, yeah, you're saying it was a risk if they're not fit enough for task. Those are his words. So, yeah, the closest ones to a recovery based on previous updates, I think, are Taylor, Brownhill and Barnes, because they were previously touch and go. I think they'd been back in training. So they're not too far away. And certainly by the time Game Week 24 comes around, then they might be in the picture. Wood and Brady, I think, were still being assessed. I don't think we really know the severity of their injuries yet. Dice did say they didn't think any of them were serious. So any of the five sort of senior players are out. But yeah, given it's again such a quick turnaround between 22 and 23, and given Dyche's track record of not risking folk, then there might not be anyone back for that. Maybe the same squad again. But as I said, none of them seem to be that serious. And I think, as I mentioned, a few of them are already back on the training ground and nearing a return, even if it isn't going to come this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping as a Chris Wood owner that he does get back fit. And it is worth saying, I guess, you don't necessarily have to move these players this week. We got until game week 24, and they will play FA Cup in between. Burnley will. So perhaps if we don't see them this weekend, we might see them in the FA Cup, and that'll give us a better indication. It's a game against Bournemouth, so I don't know how much they'll go for it, but I guess it's a winnable game. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Crystal Palace. So Zaha went off injured in the last game, or last game or the one before that. Again, it was the last one, wasn't it? My head's all over the place. Yeah. I can't remember when the games have been. Zaha was injured. He is still injured, right? He's going to miss that Leeds game. So if you've got Leeds defenders, I guess you've got a slightly better chance than normal at a clean sheet.
Yeah, there was. I don't know what the stat is now, but there was. It was mentioned to Hodgson in every press conference about how many games Palace hadn't won without Zaha on the side. I'm not sure if he actually got mentioned that today, but it was a long spell without a victory. So he's out, and it could be for longer, according to Hodgson. Obviously, they don't know the severity of it yet, and if they do, they haven't let on. But yeah, hamstring injuries, even a grade 1 is sort of 10 days plus. But it might be, based on Hodgson's comments, it might be even longer than that. So they've got him out. They've got a lengthy injury list. I'll try and reel off the players. I mean, a lot of them won't be of any interest to fantasy managers like Schlupp, Tompkins, Sacco, Ferguson, Wickham, Hennessy, McCarthy, all out. It does make predicting the lineup a little bit easier. MacArthur, I think, could be back. Ward as well. They both missed out in game week 22. But I guess the only real other player that fantasy managers are concerned about from Palace is Mitchell. And unfortunately for them, there's no injury to Van Aanholt amongst that lengthy list. And Van Aanholt's obviously started the last two. And Palace have won both. So you wouldn't expect many changes for that. It could be a bit of rotation centre half, as there has been. It could be a change. Obviously, there will be a change up top with Zaha going out. But I don't think I wouldn't be counting on a start if you're planning to play Mitchell anyway.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely be starting all my Leeds players this week if I could, even defenders as well. I just think they're going to, how they're going to play it, attack. And Crystal Palace, I don't think they're going to be able to do much apart from defend. Maybe they'll get something out of this game, but they haven't exactly been watertight at the back for most of the season. So, yeah, it should be a good one for Leeds players. Big name that maybe I should have put up higher up the list is Leicester. And it looks like Vardy's back and available for this weekend, I think.
Yeah, he is. This was the last one off the rank, and actually, David covered this. Was the only one I didn't actually cover myself. But going off the quotes, Vardy's fit, so he's available. Roger says he didn't have to rush him back into the starting 11 because of the way Iheanacho played. He's sort of full of confidence now. Having said that, I mean, in the past, he's put him in most instances when he's been fit. There was one game, wasn't it, Villa last season when it was the 4-0 when he came off the bench and scored regardless. So he wasn't risked then. So there's no guarantees he comes back in, but he's back in the squad. The flags come off at an FPL. He's obviously just missed a couple of good fixtures from an FPL perspective. But Wolves are by no means any great shakes defensively these days. They're not the watertight unit they were. So Vardy's back. Indeed, I think it's more 50-50. If he doesn't make this one, it'll be the next one. Stania, I think, is going to... I'm just reading a comment now. Yeah, a couple of weeks from the point of the Leeds game where he got injured. So that's another 10 days away, I think. Fofana's going to be out for 4 and 5 weeks. So, probably same back four again with Pereira and Soyuncu covering for those two defenders. And then we'll see, regarding Vardy, whether he comes in for Iheanacho or is an impact sub.
Yeah, I think obviously not many people will be holding on to him, but I think it is a lot of people have bought in obviously Maddison and Barnes recently, so it can only be a good thing having Vardy back. So for those managers, hopefully he starts, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a quick one on West Ham. It's pretty much the same as the last couple of game weeks. They're all fine apart from Masuaku, who's not been a thing for a while anyway, right? So looking pretty good.
Yeah, he's a month away, Masuaku. Moyes has in the past not disclosed stuff to us. Like he's not mentioned anything about a certain player being injured and then they miss out on the day. But we didn't spot anything in the Villa win. There was praise for Lingard, as you'd expect. Obviously, his excellent debut. There was a bit on. I think it was a bit on Antonio. I think I'm getting confused like yourself. I'm thinking about the previous press conference about Antonio.
Too many game weeks recently. I'm like thinking, did that happen this week or last week? It was only a couple of days ago. They did talk about Antonio last week, didn't they? But yeah, I agree on Lingard. Are you bringing him in?
Lingard?
Yeah.
I think I listened to a bit of you and Mark last night. I think if it wasn't for the fact we had Souček as the the 5 whatever he is now, 5.2, 5.4, then I'd be very interested because he's. I had a look at Jamie's report on our site and he's getting well advanced, sort of playing almost like a second striker behind Antonio. Had more shots than Antonio even. I know a lot of them were for a distance, but very good debut. And he is a bit of a streaky confidence player. He did have that one good season under his belt at United. So I'll monitor him, but I've already got a trip. Well, I've already got a double up with West Ham, and obviously I haven't got Antonio. That would be somebody I'd be wanting to get. So it's just there's not enough West Ham slots to go around.
Yeah, obviously it was just one game, so like I was saying to Mark, you don't want to put too much emphasis on it. But I felt like the other players that have played number 10 behind Antonio is just looking for the ball in. But Lingard did a bit of both. Like he did run past, and that created quite a few problems for Villa. Obviously, he got a bit lucky with the goals and the keeping, but yeah, still full credit to how he played. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And they do have a couple of good fixtures now. So yeah, they're on definitely on a good roll. West Ham. Let's go to Arsenal. So another weird game like the Southampton one, really, where they had two red cards. So David Luiz and Leno both going to be missing the next game, I believe. I don't think David Luiz's one wasn't overturned, like Bednarak. Any other info from Arsenal? Any other injury news or lineup news?
Yeah, you're spot on there with Leno and Luiz. Matt Ryan's still not being able to train, so he could make a recovery, but they've obviously got the Icelandic guy Runarsson, who's available as the third choice. He could deputise for Leno. Tierney, I think, still out. He's got this calf problem, and they've been sort of managing him the best they can. And I think, there was a question on Aubameyang as well. He obviously featured off the bench in that Wolves game. They actually played really well for the first half. I think Arteta even said it was one of the best performances of the season. And then it was just unfortunate, really. I mean, it's David Luiz, and he is prone to a red card, but I think it was pretty harsh, really. I mean, he could do much else in his position. And then obviously Leno gets sent off as well, and just one of them days. So they did actually play quite well, and certainly no guarantees that Aubameyang comes straight back in. I mean, Saka's been so good, and Pepe has been in really good form as well. Lacazette's been good up top. So and obviously Smith Rowe playing well as a number 10. So no guarantees that Aubameyang comes straight back in. Even though he is available now and did build up that match fitness in midweek.
Yeah, it's hard to see them just taking Lacazette out because he has been pretty good this season so far, at least in recent weeks. But I wonder if we will ever see Aubameyang down the middle with Pepe and Saka flanking, because so many people still think that Aubameyang, that's his best position. I think Arteta specifically said that he's better from the left, but maybe it was the last manager, I can't remember. But Pepe's looked pretty good in the last couple of games, so you don't want to take him out either. They're finally kind of getting what they paid for. So yeah, interesting times at Arsenal. But I'm quite happy to be a Jack Grealish owner with Leno and David Luiz out, I'll be honest. I think Villa will give them a good game this week. Let's go to Everton. So again, last game week, I should say, Pickford was out. Still didn't keep a clean sheet, but only conceded one, of course. And it looks like he's going to miss the game again this week.
He is, yeah. Ancelotti previously said that he might be back for this one against Man United, but he's not. I think he hasn't been able to train yet, so he's out. Same with Alan as well, and Gabamin. I think Pickford and Alan might be back next week for game week 24, which is
the double, of course. Yeah,
the double. Yeah. So obviously, Pickford isn't exactly a boot to have back, but Alan certainly is. I mean, he'll make a difference in the middle of the park, and that's where they've struggled a bit to really replace him. But yeah, I think those are the only three Ancelotti mentioned, so nothing new beyond that.
Alan definitely big, especially for those that have jumped on Luca Dean. So it'd be interesting to see. And obviously, we have got a full week now until the next deadline, so we'll actually have a bit of time to think about it and also get a bit more info as well. So be interesting to see. Plus, the FA Cup matches will be finished. So game week 24 is going to be a big lot of information, I think. Let's go to your boys, Newcastle. Obviously playing Southampton this week, I think, off the top of my head. How are they looking at the moment?
Defence is where the problems are at the minute. So Lascelles and Fernandes, we already knew about. They're already out. Dummett, Bruce said, was still struggling, even though he made the bench against Palace. Lewis, now Newcastle initially ruled him out. They said he's unavailable. They misquoted. Well, they didn't misquote Bruce, but rather Bruce mentioned the wrong Jamal. He was meant to rule Lascelles out, we think, and he mentioned Jamal Lewis's name. Now Lewis is injured. He has got a hamstring problem, but he's not categorically out. Bruce later said in the press conference that he was hopeful that he might recover, but did mention the fact that Rich Eaton could play at left back. So there's enough of a doubt with Lewis to warrant, for example, me putting someone else at left back in the team news. I think beyond that, I think that's everyone I've mentioned. Yeah, I think it's just defensively. He said St. Maximum's available to start, but given the form of the players in front of him, was overlooked for the Palace game because obviously we beat Everton previously. Willock could come in. That's one change that could happen. I'm quite excited about him actually. Was he 4.7 in FPL? He's a box-to-box player. Got a bit of an eye for goal. Hasn't really proved that in the Premier League. He hasn't really been given an extended run. but he scored plenty in the European competitions, and I'm quite excited about him, especially in this new attacking setup we've got. And Bruce said he's going to be involved. So whether that's from the start, whether that's off the bench, I do think there's a spot in there for him. I think Jeff Hendrick's place is certainly up for grabs. So I'll be monitoring him closely for if Newcastle get a double. Because I think he's a decent player.
Yeah, you're right about him. So he is 4.7 million. The next couple of fixtures not great, but from game week 26 onwards, if they were to double, and then all the fixtures afterwards are not bad, so it might become a bench option, potentially a bench boost option. So yeah, one to keep an eye on. Obviously, good result against Everton, not so good against Crystal Palace. So we'll have to see how they bounce back. And obviously, Southampton this week looks like quite a good game because I believe if they got. We'll come on to them now. It sounds like Vestergaard might be back this weekend, but they did have a lot of other injuries. So how are they looking at the moment, Southampton?
It's not looking too bad, providing you don't look at the bench. I think the first 11 is actually quite decent from what they've got, and then beyond that, it's just fodder and youth products. So they've got another addition to the injury list, which is Armstrong. He's got a muscle issue, so that he'll join the likes of Diallo, Walcott, Salisu, Smallbone, Obafemi, Teller. Jankovic is obviously suspended as well after his red card. But good news, Bednarak had his red card overturned, so he's available. And then there's 3 players who could also be back. You mentioned one of them then, Vestergaard, Walker-Peters and Romeo as well. They're nearing a return. Now, those two have been out for a relatively short period of time, so match fitness wouldn't be that much of an issue. You would think they'd be standing more of a chance for a start. Hasenhüttl said that Vestergaard would play, I think, if he asked, but it's not ideal to be throwing him in after, I think it's best part of 2 months he's been out. So he might preserve him for another week, but there is the possibility, if Walker-Peters isn't ready, that like Stevens goes to right back and Vestergaard comes in at centre half, because poor Ramsey didn't have a great evening. Not that any of them did.
Yeah, it was a hard game, wasn't it? As soon as the red card, yeah, and they didn't really change. I mean, they put Ings left wing, but I mean, he was never going to do a job there, really. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying he didn't try, but he's not a winger. He's not someone that wants to track back and defend like that. So, I mean, maybe I'm doing a bit of disservice, because he does do a lot for the team, but it's not ideal, is it, situation to play with 10 men and Danny Ings on your wing. So, yeah, it was harsh for all of them. Yeah, Vestergaard's an interesting one, because obviously they do have the double. It's not the best double, really. Chelsea at home and Leeds away. It's probably one of the worst ones that was announced yesterday. But afterwards, they do have pretty good fixtures, kind of all the way up until kind of game week 32. And Vestergaard's already scored, how many goals this season? It feels like loads. Already 3, but considering he's missed the last 6 or 7, not bad. He's such a threat, and yeah, so he's definitely someone I'm looking at. He's down to 4.7 now as well. So yeah, keep an eye on him this week, I think, and then yeah, for the next few weeks ahead. Did we hear anything from Dean Smith, Villa?
Yes, but nothing much of interest that I've seen anyway. It was a bit of talk about
Wesley, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. Yeah, it wasn't anywhere near a return. I don't think there was anything else. I'll double check on that. This is one of the ones I haven't actually seen all the way through. So unless there wasn't something reported, but I'll get back to you via
we'll tweet out
one of the mediums we've got on the site, Twitter. Yeah. I don't think there's anything though.
Yeah, he plays the same 11 every week anyway, so it's not really going to affect us too much. Let's just touch on Spurs, because they played last night. So there's not been a press conference today. There's obviously just quotes from yesterday, and there's a bit of a thing going around about the hint that Kane might be back for game week 23, but it feels like something that's being played up a bit more than what was actually said. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so certainly nothing definitive. So these were quotes, as you said, they're released from embargo at 1 o'clock this afternoon. It's on Friday, we're recording this. And Mourinho was asked about his injured contingent. So the likes of Reguilon and Lo Celso, they're among that group. And Kane is obviously part of that group as well. So Mourinho said Kane is the one who's the nearest to a return. And then I believe that, as you mentioned to me, there was a quote which said, with Harry or without him against West Brom this weekend, we'll have to do a job, or something along those lines. So I don't know if people are just jumping to conclusions. I don't know if someone's heard anything that I've not. But Kane is the one who's closest to a comeback. Originally, and this was just a couple of days ago, Mourinho had said that he'd be back for either the FA Cup match in midweek or the Man City game in game week 24. So there's a possibility that he's made a few strides since then, and his comeback's been pushed forward a couple of days. But there was nothing, in that other than the merest hint of hope that he might be available. Certainly wasn't saying. But I mean, that's been enough before. I mean, we've been here before with Mourinho, with Son, of course, famously earlier in the season. And he's obviously keeping his cards close to his chest. That's the annoying thing about post-match press conferences, which serve as then the preview to the following game, because it's just straight after the match. They haven't had any time whatsoever to absorb the new injuries. They haven't had any additional information from the physio department. So, we're just going off those comments. There's obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if FPL moved him to like sort of 25% or something like that based on those comments. But there's nothing we've seen certain cast iron that he's going to be back for 23, which is a shame. Because I'd be very interested in that. I'm still not sure. I know you've got Son yourself and you're captaining him probably. I'm
maybe
still
now.
not
It's a
sure.
maybe now instead of a probably.
Yeah, downgraded to a maybe. I'm not like I was intent on getting him in for this Son, like absolutely no questions. As much because of his ownership and the damage he could do. But I haven't seen last night and I haven't seen the Brighton game and the double game week announcements. I am wondering whether my transfers are better served elsewhere.
Yeah, I feel
it'll be scary watch.
But if you've got Antonio, I feel like if
Nope.
I feel like if you don't go for Son, Antonio is great. But I guess the thing is, you can just always default to Bruno Fernandes. So it's just like there's always an option. I agree. I think with the double game week announcement, it makes it much more difficult to go for a short term Son move. All I'll say is you can go and check this in the members area. The 2.5 games that Kane has missed have been against 3 of the top 4 defences this year so far in terms of like shots in the box, expected goals conceded. So they haven't had an easy game yet without him. So it's very easy to say without Kane they are just bad, which they have been. I'm not trying to stick up for them in any way. Like it was awful last night, like really horrible to watch. But they have played some pretty good defences. So after West Brom, if they still play like that and Son's still not getting shots in the box, then I'll hold my hands up and just say. Without Kane, they are awful. It'd be interesting to see what lineup he plays, to be honest, because I just don't see why Son is not through the middle and Moura and even Lamella. Lamella looked alright when he came on, but we'll have to wait and see. But going back to this hint, I agree. It looks a bit dubious to me. Like he goes on to say a load of stuff, and then just ends with or without him, we'll have to try and win. Which, I mean, it's probably going to be without him, isn't it? So, I feel like that's quite a. It's a big stretch to think he's going to be back. Yeah. And the last team, which I don't think we've got any info for anyway, is West Brom, who they're playing. Anything major there?
There was a few lines about the 2 new signings. So Maitland-Niles has trained all week, I think. So I would expect him to certainly feature. He'll definitely be in the squad, and then maybe even from the start. And the other lad, they've got the Turkish guy whose name eludes me for this. Oh yeah, OK Yokozlu. He has trained, I think, for the first time today. And he's got his work permit, his visa all sorted now. The fact that he's just training today for the first time, that's probably might be a bit of a stretch for him to start. But I think, again, Allardyce was saying he'll be in the squad this weekend. But, West Brom, as you say there, they're there for the taking, really. If they're even a half-decent team. I mean, Sheffield United, who aren't renowned for their goal-scoring exploits, put 2 past them. So even an under-par Spurs,
They're so bad, like West Brom. I can't, every time I think, right, I just won't go for Son, I keep coming back to just how bad West Brom are. Like, there's lots of bad defences in the league at the moment, including, like, Leeds, Sheffield United for some of the season, Crystal Palace, Newcastle haven't been great, but West Brom are just that bit worse than all of them. But I've seen the last 2.5 games, and it's been a horrible watch.
I think fullbacks, especially, they haven't got any decent fullbacks, West Brom, and if Son's playing off the left and he's up against who was it on? O'Shea was playing there, wasn't he, on in the midweek? And he's not a fullback, and Furlong is better suited going forward. So, it's going to be
it's tough, isn't it?
Head scratcher this one, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing in the back of my head is Sheffield United scored twice, but I would assume West Brom saw that as a game they could win. Whereas
True.
Spurs will be a game they don't see that they can win, so they're going to sit back and just try and nick it. So I think that's maybe a slight difference. But then I think, am I just trying to talk myself out of it because everyone else is also not going there anymore? So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's something for another video. Captaincy for this week. Who are you going to captain then if you don't go Son or Antonio? Fernandes, I guess, right?
It probably will be Fernandes. Yeah, I mean it's slim pickings. Like, I mean, I'm not anyway expecting it to be a similar performance to what happened to Southampton. But yeah, I mean, I've got like 5 players across the Man City Liverpool game already, so I'm ruling them out. Grealish possibly, but I mean Arsenal. I know they'll be missing 2 of the back 4, but I mean they've kept a lot of clean sheets recently.
Yeah,
they were doing well against Wolves before that. Those 2 red cards. It's just not much happening. Bamford possibly. I mean,
yeah, I think he's an outside shot as well.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace. Anyway, again, captaincy. We'll be back tomorrow, or at least I will be, for Breakfast Club at 9:30 with Ted again. So we will talk about this. I know we've got some graphics already for good matchups this week. So make sure you tune in for that. Obviously, hit subscribe so you know that's coming, and hit the like button if you've enjoyed this. Any more team news we'll have out on Twitter, FF Scout, and obviously there'll be the team news article later. And there's a team news tab on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for all the predicted lineups and stuff like that. So make sure you check all that out. Neil, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, back to the weekly press conferences next week, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Like, I love the quick turnarounds for a while, and then it just gets a bit too much. So yeah, I'm glad to have a few normal weeks. We'll still get some midweek football. We just won't have deadlines to worry about. So that's good. But yeah, good luck this week, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, for some of you, I will see